why Malta is a study destination, the educational system, types of institutions, the intakes and deadline, then followed by the entry requirement for admission, work rights, total cost. By total cost, we're talking about financial requirements, be it for tuition fees, living expenses, and the likes. Okay. Then we're also going to be talking about the visa process and documentations, and then other acceptable documents for the proof of funds. I believe most of you know what POF, proof of funds, where the student has to demonstrate that he or she has sufficient funds to undertake studies there, comfortably without having to seek for employment. Okay, so that is it. So where is Malta first of all? So Malta is an European country, and it's I think it's an island. To be honest, it's an island in the middle of the Mediterranean. Okay, so it's a destination that is roughly about 100 kilometers close to the other part of Europe. Okay, it's quite a small place, and it's on the beautiful Mediterranean island of Malta, which is known for its rich history, excellent education system, and welcoming environment. Okay, so it offers Nigerian students an opportunity to pursue their academic dreams in an international settings. Okay, so we shall just have a brief overview. So it's located at the center of the Mediterranean, like I said. It's roughly about 100 kilometers away from the mainland Europe, which is linked via air or sea. Okay, so it's fast growing, and sometime in 2018, recorded a significant growth, percentage beating other leading destinations like the UK, USA, and Australia. Okay, so the currency of trade in Malta is euro. We have the capital city as Valletta, and like I said, is in the continent of Europe. Okay, the language spoken is Maltese and English. So sometimes your student may ask, what if I go to Malta? What language do they speak? How am I going to be taught? So the programs are English taught programs. Okay, and then for students who are coming from this part of the world, they would not struggle with the language because English is widely spoken in Malta. Okay, so why Malta as study destination? So first of all, we have wellness programs. So Malta offers a robust education system with diverse courses, high quality education, cutting-edge research and world-class facilities, and equally faculties. Okay, so the programs are accredited, meeting international standards, while in a very organized environment as well. Okay, so talking about the economy, it has a very good economy. It's economically very okay for students. By economically, I'm talking about budget friendly. Okay, so for those students who tell you, I have a very low budget, I have a slim budget of somewhere around 5,000 euros. So maybe at 5,000 to like 10,000 euros. Okay, so Malta is a go-to destination for such category of students. Okay, so it's quite affordable for students, and it supports just cheap fees basically, while at the same time offering other benefits like post-study work opportunities and the likes to students. Okay, then talking about the location. It's in a specific location whereby students find it very easy to link other parts of Europe. Okay, so once you are studying in Malta, you hold a visa, you can easily link up to that part of Europe, maybe during your vacations, during your holidays, and all that. So it's just in a very strategic position in Europe. Okay, so student has the opportunity to work as much as 20 hours part-time during school hours. That's what I'm talking about during sessions, during this semester is on. So with that, at least they can be able to gather some meaningful experience, and also to maybe make some money also to support themselves while they are there. Okay, so I'll also talk about the culture. Okay, so students enjoy Malta's rich historical and cultural heritage. Okay, offering immersive learning experience in art, history, and culture itself. So it's a very colorful place. You're going to meet students from diverse ethnic nationalities all there. So it's an opportunity for students to network, make new friends, and then grow their network of friends for future. Okay. So like I also mentioned earlier, it has a very strategic location as well, positioned in the Mediterranean, serves as a gateway to Europe and North Africa, offering well-connected transportation for academic and personal explorations. Like I said, personal explorations in the sense that during holidays, it's very easy for them to, link up other parts of Europe. Okay, so we also need to talk about safety and supportive community here. Okay, so it's renowned for its safety. Okay, with a warm and welcoming population, it's somewhere whereby you go to and you feel at home. You don't really feel you're in a strange place. Okay, so it has a very welcoming population, supportive university environment, and encouragement for students to excel. So, what are the conditions that make a student excel in school? Definitely, conducive environment. You feel safe, you feel welcomed, and all of that. With that, student can be able to settle down properly and excel academically as well. Okay. So I'll keep into the institutions represented by KC overseas in Malta. So currently now for the Nigerian market, we have our Essential Business School Malta. We also have a direct tie-up with London School of Commerce in Malta. We also have that of Global Business Studies GBS Malta, that's Global Business School in Malta. Then we'll have St. Martin's Institute of Higher Education, and then Lenki Institute Training Institute, and then lastly we'll have the idea Academic Malta accepts students from, this is for us, but like I said, accept students from Jam, this is like for our Indian counterparts. Okay, so but then for more of the schools we have, if you want to access these schools, all you simply need to do is go to the course finder, search program, you select Malta, and then search. You are going to have access to all these institutions. Okay, so talking about the intake, the major intake we have is for the spring intake we have for January and February, which has just passed. So we're currently recruiting students for the forthcoming intake, which is the fall intake, which is for September and October. So at this time, if you have a student who is highly interested in studying in Malta, this is the time for them to begin their application. Okay, so that they avoid the situation whereby they begin to rush and maybe finding it very difficult to meet up with maybe other visa requirements and the like. So I also need to mention that it's one of the study destinations whereby the institution assists students in doing the visa application. Okay, after offer, student pays the tuition fees and others, then I think the visa check presents the student. However, we'll still get to that part very soon. Okay, so just take note of the intake. For the spring intake is January and February, while for the fall intake, which is actively open, is September and October intake. Okay, so these are some entry requirements. So for some of the universities, so they usually accept minimum 50% in WAEC. And for some of you here, what do I mean by 50% in WAEC? So assuming you have a student, okay, who is going for a bachelor's degree, you can see here, bachelor's degree, 3 years, the minimum they will accept by the time you have provided the student SSCE, okay, if the student has minimum of 6 all through, minimum, 6 is equivalent to If you do your calculations properly, you see. Okay, so that is the minimum acceptable, and then of course the students need to have at least the credit in maths and English. Okay, for someone who is going for a bachelor's degree. Okay, so for someone who is going for a postgraduate diploma, which is usually for a duration of 1 year, the student needs to have at least above 50%. Okay, and then for a student who is going for a master's degree program as well, the student needs to have at least above 50% in the BSc. And what is above 50% in BSc? So looking at the Nigerian context right now, the grading scale for Nigerian university education is on a 5-point basis. Okay, so 50% is actually on 2.5, which is a second class lower. Okay, so we need the student to have at least above just the 2.5. It could still be a second class lower, quite all right, not a problem. But the student should have above a 2.5 CGPA. Okay, so you can look at the similar entry requirement for all other schools mentioned during London School of Commerce. I think it's the same thing, and then St. Martin's Institute of Higher Education. Then you have a DBS Malta as well. So basically, students need to have at least a good result. Okay, even if it has to be a 2, it should be above 50%. Okay. So likewise for this. So for English language proficiency, okay, yeah, some of the schools require students to provide test of English. However, some institutions as well offer alternatives for the test of English. It could be IELTS or PTE. In some cases, a student may be able to apply with a medium of instruction letter from the school. So wherever the student may have graduated from, you should be able to get a medium of instruction letter stating that he or she was taught and assessed in English language. Okay, so with that, student may be able to get an English test waiver during the application process. Okay, so just bear in mind. However, if the school insists that the student has to provide a form of English test, be it IELTS or PTE or any other recommended test, then the student will have to sit for it. Okay, so let's talk about the cost of education. So because by the time a student comes to you, what does a student want to know? A typical student will ask you, what opportunities are there in this destination? So you should be able to tell the student that when you are studying in Malta, you can work up to 20 hours weekly, part-time. Okay, you can get up to 1 year post-study work permit. You can, travel within Europe. Okay, and then tuition fee is affordable and the likes. Okay, so they want to know what incentive there is in that country for them to apply to that country. Okay, and of course, the cost of education is one of them. Okay, everybody needs something affordable. We see how the forex market has been dwindling left and right, and this has made it very expensive for students to embark on their educational journey abroad. Okay, so let's talk more about cost of education. Okay, we are going to talk about cost of education, living expenses, the cost of traveling as well. Okay, to study in Malta. Okay, so I will just go straight into the tuition fees. So averagely, for undergraduate applications or undergraduate students, okay, the average tuition fee would be between 5,000 to 8,000 euros, okay, while for the master's students, the average tuition fee would be between 6,000 to 10,000 euros. Okay, then we're talking about the airfare, that is the flight booking from Nigeria to Malta, is roughly around 600 euros. Okay? Visa fees roughly around 150 euros, inclusive of VFS fee. Okay, so because by the time the student has paid the visa fee, upon going to the VFS, they may have to go there with additional 50 euros or thereabout. So, but by and large, the visa fee plus the VFS fee is about 150 euros. So if you look at it properly, the student needs somewhere around 22,102 euros if you are going for an undergraduate program. And then if you are going for a postgraduate program, the student will need around 24,102 euros. Okay. So, like I said, student has the opportunity to work 20 hours part-time weekly by studying in Malta. Okay. So I believe that the next question you want to ask, maybe I know I'll get there eventually. You may want to ask about tuition deposits, how many installments is allowed to pay the tuition fee. So for Malta, student has to pay 100% of the school fees. Okay, the fee is already cheap. It's cheap already. Okay, so they require the students to pay 100% of the fees. So eventually you are showing funds for your visa application. You will have to now show this exact amount that I have quoted here, less the tuition fees paid. Because obviously you pay the fees. So you now have to show your living expense and maybe other costs. Okay? So tuition fees paid 100%. Okay? So let's have a brief look at the chart. Okay? To explain the expenses, okay, living expenses in Malta. Let's see which of them tops the living expense. Okay, so we can see here about 10.9% of your money is going to go to transportation. Okay, and then we have another 15.7% to clothing, right? Clothing and shoes. I don't know. See. However, whatever you are seeing here, it's also dependent on the student's spending habits. Okay, if you have a student who is a heavy spender, he may actually spend more than this. Okay, but averagely, if you have a student who is prudent with expenses, like he's quite conservative in terms of spending money and all of that, the living expense, which we have quoted earlier, should be very okay and enough to see that student through. So we are looking at somewhere around 450 to 750 euros monthly, depending on the place of location. Okay, so this also further goes to underscore my point. What I said, it also depends on the student's habits and preferences. Okay, if you have a student who, take for example, decides to live in Maitama here in Abuja, and then you have another student who decides to get an apartment somewhere in, let's say, Lugoma, or in Lube, or in Kubwa. Obviously, the person who is living in Maitama or Sokore will be spending more. So apparently, maybe the person has enough money. Okay, so it all depends. But by and large, between 450 to 700 euros is what you require there for your monthly upkeep as a student. Okay, and of this expense, somewhere around 250 to 450 euros would go into accommodation, and then between 150 to 200 euros as well, we go in for feeding. All depends on the student. Okay. So let's break it down to the specifics now. So, many a times we have been talking about euros, tuition fee for bachelor's programs, 5,000 to 8,000 euros, masters between 6,000 to 10,000, and you may want to ask, so what's the equivalent of this in naira? Okay, so as at today's exchange or conversion, 5,000 euros is equivalent to around 8,137,000 naira, and then 8,000 euro will be around 13,020,000. While for master's program, 6,000 euro will be around 9,765,000. While if we have the maximum cap of 10,000 euro, that will be around 16,275,000 naira. Okay, but trust me, even for the master's programs, you will easily find tuition fees between, let's say, 6,500 to 8,000 thereabouts. So just have maybe a few of them around 10,000, even for 6,000, I believe you find a good number of programs. Okay. So scholarships. So yes, schools in Malta are very generous with scholarships. Okay, but however, these are merit-based scholarships. So that is why it completely depends on the profile of the student. By profile of the student, we are talking about a good number of factors here. Okay, academic qualification, the academic grades, possibly maybe the age. Okay, yes. And maybe also there's a certain course you may be going for, which they may have thought it wise to offer some scholarships, maybe just to encourage students to go for such courses. If students is going for such a course, there's a possibility, maybe in the area of STEM, there's a possibility that the student may benefit from some tuition discount. Okay, so however, I know that sometimes when you talk about scholarships, people have a different notion about scholarships. They just feel it's 100% of the fee. No, scholarships are in different forms. Okay, it could just be a minimal tuition discount, maybe 10% discount, 5%, 15%, or maybe as much as 50%. It all depends. Okay, so but then students should not hope for 100% tuition discounts. Maybe just minimal discount of €1,000 or thereabouts. Okay, so these are some popular study areas. We have programs in human resource, business administration, account, finance, hospitality, tourism, marketing, brand management, science, and a whole lot of other courses. Okay, so the courses available are not limited just to this area of study. There are a good number of them, but then these are just a few of them for you to see. Okay, so let's talk about the application process. What's the application process like? You have a student, you have canceled the student properly, the student has provided the documents, and now it's time for you to punch in an application. Okay, so you have to review the academic document properly to be sure that the student's grade is matching to the entry requirement of the institution. Okay, so you have to calculate the exact aggregate academic percentage of the last education of the student. Okay, so let's take for example for the WAEC or NECO, and then a typical university transcript from Nigeria. Okay, so if you look at a WAEC result and you are seeing like let's say the student start for 9 subjects. Okay, and in the 9 subjects she had about roughly C6 in subjects. Okay, and then has A1 in 2 subjects, and then has a B3 in 4 subjects. Okay, that is 9. So if you look at that properly, you could say that averagely the student may be sitting on a C4. Okay, student may be sitting on a C4 because by the time you take those A1s and B3s, you use them to neutralize the C6 and all. So the student may eventually be sitting on an average of a C4, and the C4 is close to 59%, which is good. Okay, remember earlier when we were talking, or when I was making the presentation about the entry requirements, I talked about students meeting minimum 50%. Okay, so if you look at that, the student will be sitting somewhere around 59% or thereabout, which is okay. Okay, so on the other hand, if you have a result whereby the student has like 2 D7, you have about 4 C6. Okay, and then maybe the rest of the subject you have let's say C5. If you look at that as well, the student may be falling short of 50%. Okay, because if you try to bring out or bring up the D7s or the E8s and the likes, even the C6, which the student ordinarily had made 50%, would have lost some value. Okay, Then again, let's look at a typical undergraduate transcript. So like I earlier mentioned, the grading system here in Nigeria is on a 5-point scale. And if you have a student who has a CGP of, let's say, 3.1, okay? So how can you, or how will you calculate the exact percentage of these students? How? Okay, this is very simple. You do 3.1 divide by the grading scale. What is our grading scale? 5. Okay, you can't have anything above 5 in your CGPA. So you do 3.1 divided by 5. This will give you 0.62. So 0.62 means 62%. For clarity, you might just decide to also just multiply by 100, okay? Just to give you a whole number. So you are saying 62. So that is how to calculate the percentage for the undergraduate program. More so, if you have a student whose CGPA is 2.0, if you divide it by 5, this is 0.4. Okay? So it simply means this student has somewhere around 40%. Okay? So if it's a program that requires a student to have minimum of 50% in the previous education, this student is clearly not qualified to apply. Okay? So once this is done, you have to check the original academic mark sheet. By mark sheet, you are referring to transcript. You have to check the CV, ensure that there are no unexplained gaps. Okay? And what are gaps? What are gaps, for instance? So let's assume a student finished the university education in 2011. Okay? Having finished in 2011, the CV now shows that the student got a job in 2015. Okay? And then ever since, student has been working up to present. So now, what is the gap there? Student needs to explain what he or she has been doing since 2011 up till 2015 when he secured an employment. Okay? You also have a student who has sat for the SSCE, obtained the WIEC certificate in 2015, and ever since then, student hasn't used or done anything. And right there on the CV, you are seeing that the student gained admission into the university to study for an undergraduate program in 2018. So if you have sat for WIEC in 2015 and you gained admission to study for a degree in 2018, so what happened between 2015 to 2018? That is a gap that needs some explanation. And then when you're explaining these gaps, please don't just put 2015 to 2018. No, always include the months. It's very important. So these are some very vital information you need to have. Okay, this can easily differentiate two applicants. Okay? We are talking about scholarships a few minutes ago. There are a lot of things that can actually determine if it's going to get scholarship. The neatness of the application. You look at your CV. Your CV is well detailed, well arranged, doesn't give race questions and everything. Then you look at your statement of purpose, well written. For instance, assuming it's a program that requires it, okay, well written, well explained, and all of that. No plagiarized SOPs and all of that. When the admission team look at such a quality application, they can find such student worthy of a scholarship. Okay, so we need to take it very seriously. Okay, so having vet the students' academic credentials and grades, you also need to check the university properly to be sure that the student is meeting the entry requirements. Then you now upload all the signed application forms and all other copies on Course Finder. Okay, then provide all scanned documents, neatly scanned. Please avoid providing documents whereby the student try to scan the document and you can see that the student is holding the document with one finger, and then when you have scanned it, there's a finger showing, or you take photographs where it's not properly aligned. Please ensure that documents are properly aligned, well cropped, professionally done, and neat. Okay, this goes a long way to tell how serious the student is, because trust me, this is a million. We are talking about millions of investment here. Okay, in education. So one would expect that a student who is spending such an amount of money would be able to do a thorough job, in presenting himself in a good way. Okay, so the document needs to be neat, no blurry images, no, like terrible looking backgrounds and all of that. So with that done properly, you can say that the students have submitted a quality application. Okay, so bear that in mind. Okay, so furthermore about the application process, okay, talk about the application stage. Once this has been done, most of the institutions in Malta will want to hold and have an interview with the student. Okay, so the student need to be well prepared for an interview. So this is what I will tell you. When you have submitted an application on Course Finder for a Malta school, please always check the status of that application on a regular basis. The reason being that we will likely have sent you a message asking that the student choose a convenient time and date to have the interview. Okay, so the longer it takes you to respond, the longer you delay the entire process. Okay, and now what will the interview be about? Students will be asked very simple question. Why have you chosen Malta as a study destination? Why have you chosen this particular institution? Why this program? Student needs to be able to say why he or she feels that this program is going to align with his or her future career path. That is in terms of helping them or aiding them to have a successful career. Okay, so you need to be sure that if you said you want to be a data analyst, okay, you need to apply for the right course. You can't aspire to be a data analyst in the future and then you are applying for a program in accounting, okay, or let's say economics. So you need to go for the likes of data science, business analytics, or it all depends. But you need to apply for the right course. Okay, so they need to be sure that you are making the right investment and you are not just wasting your money. Okay, because at the end of the day, if you are not satisfied or you find yourself in the wrong class, you will feel that you have not made a worthy investment. Okay, so that's all about the interview. Prepare the student properly. They should be in a well-lit environment or well-lit environment. Speak professionally. Have a very good network, internet connectivity. And obviously on the day of the interview, they need to have their international passport beside them. Okay, so that is well noted. Okay, so once the application has been submitted, student has done the interview. The conditional letter of offer will be issued. Students pays the application fee, if any. Then students will now be mandated to pay the tuition fees. Like I said, students need to pay full 1 year tuition fees. There is no instrumental payment allowed. Okay, so step 6, invitation letter, acceptance letter, and payment receipt will be issued soft copy and hard copy. Okay, then the 7th stage will be the visa documentation. Okay, so document required for the application process. This is standard document checklist for admission processes. Okay, so we'll talk about there's an application form which will be sent. Okay, upon application, once you apply, we're going to share the application form with you, share with your student. But please, I always say, also try to guide the student. Don't just leave it completely to the student to fill, because sometimes they may not do it properly and it can affect the process or the progress of the application. Okay, please, even if they have to fill it completely, ensure that you review what has been done before you upload it. Okay, so copy of your passport. Okay, so we're talking about page of personal details and photos. So this is like the passport data page. Okay, so we talk about the SSC, EBIT, either WAEC or NEBO. whichever the student has needs to provide. Then we are talking about the bachelor degree certificate and the transcript. Okay, so if he's a master's student, the student needs to provide the bachelor's degree certificate and the transcript. Then again, need to provide 2 letters of recommendation from professors or employers for the master. So I will have to say, even if the student cannot get letter of recommendation from a professor, it's not a must. Just get it from one of your lecturer, okay? Or you need to say alternatively, you can get from your employer. And in most cases, please, the most recent employer will do the job, okay? So, and then the letter of recommendation shouldn't be older than 6 months, okay? So a CV as well, detailing the proper work experience of the student with the date and everything needs to be provided as well. Then personal statement for master's application needs to be provided. So personal statement, a good personal statement should explain, give a brief introduction of the applicant, citing educational background, work experience, and the likes. Then again, talking about why you have chosen the study destination, why the school, why the program, future plans at the end of the program. Yes, a good personal statement must answer all those questions. Okay. So lastly, a portfolio. So what is a portfolio, first of all? A portfolio is a collection of works you may have done. So this is not a standard requirement for all master's applications. However, there are a few programs that may require a portfolio. Take, for instance, if you are applying for a program in area of, let's say, design, okay, architecture and the likes, yes, you may have to provide a portfolio. So a portfolio will be a collection of what you've done, maybe a collection of pictures, drawings, or whatever it be. That is what a portfolio is. Okay, so if you are applying to such a program, you may have to provide it. And if you are not having to provide it, let's say you are applying to a different program, then it will not be required. So yeah, so process for Malta student visa. So talk about, you fill Malta visa application form from the official website, 2 passport size photograph. Okay, you have your passports, that's international passport, flight tickets, reservation copy, travel, medical insurance. So now let me explain this. When you are applying for the visa, the school handles the visa application for the student. However, there are certain facts that are delegated to the students. The student also has to play a significant role in the visa application process. You have to pay for your medical insurance, okay, to cover from the date you are arriving in the country to the end of the program. 2, you have to provide your flight booking reservation. Very important, okay? Then you also need to write a little essay explaining your purpose of visiting, okay? You need to explain why you are coming to Malta. So this can actually be the decider whether you get the visa or not. Some people really don't take this aspect of the visa application very seriously. So it's just like when you are applying for Canada study visa, you have to write the same thing, okay? You need to explain why you have chosen Malta. There are lots of countries in the world. Why haven't you gone to any of them? You have to explain why Malta in particular. What do you find most interesting about studying in Malta? Okay? Why have you chosen that particular school? Okay? You also have to talk about your previous work experience, what your future plans, sponsorship, how you intend to pay. Let's assume the program is slightly over a year, how you intend to pay the rest of the fee. You have to talk about all of that, your home ties and all. You have to take it seriously. Okay? So don't do some terrible jobs, quantity SOPs or essays and then expect to get a visa. That's not going to happen. Okay? So please try as much as possible to do your own due diligence in your application. All right? However, we will have a very competent team that will be able to guide you. So even at any stage you find anything confusing, you don't know what to do, the team is always available to guide you. I'm also here as well. Okay. So let's have a look at the student visa checklist. Okay. So the visa application form will be sent, the passport size photograph with a white background, the international passport itself, then talk about the overseas travel medical insurance, then your travel itinerary. What is your travel itinerary? What is your travel itinerary? So a travel itinerary is more like a travel plan. Okay. So explaining the whole breakdown of activities in the process of making that journey. Could be this is your health insurance, this is the date you're arriving, you have booked your accommodation, and everything. So you have to explain properly, well written down as the travel itinerary. So proof of sufficient funds, like we said, somewhere around 13,000 euros should be fine to see you through for your living expense while you study in Malta. So proof of accommodation, your accommodation must be booked and paid for up front prior your before visa application. You have to, and you must get the confirmation from the landlord or accommodation provider or wherever, stating that you have paid and booked your accommodation. So it is mandatory. It's not a case of when I get there, I start to look for. No, you have to do it before your visa application. Okay, so your educational certificate, this comprises of, let's say, SSC, your degree certificate, your transcript, same document used to process your admission. Okay, so offer letter from the Education Institute in Malta. So this is your admission letter. Okay, and then photocopy of the applicant's entire passport. So you're going to make a proper photocopy of your passport page, data page, and then the rest of the pages of the passport. Okay. So just note that the visa processing time is between 5 to 8 weeks. All right. So for requirement, once again, this is just more or less like a recap. You need around somewhere around 36 euros per day times the total duration of your course. That's for your living expense. I'm not saying 36 euros per month, per day, times the total duration of your course. Okay. Then you also talk about 25 euros per day times total duration of the course if accommodation is pre-booked. So that is to say, if you have earlier booked accommodation, you need to show somewhere around 25 euros per day times the total duration of your course. Okay. So some of the financial documents accepted for the Malta student visa. Educational loan is accepted, meaning to say student who secures an educational loan can study in Malta. Balance in savings account. So if you have money that you have saved in your account, that's I'm talking about your personal account, not a corporate account. You can use it. Then fixed deposits account or certificate is also accepted. Okay. So more about the fund requirement. Okay. So for students who are going through educational loan, the loan should be availed from an acceptable financial institution. So say in the case of financial institutions here, we're talking about institutions that have been licensed by CBN and maybe other regulatory bodies. Okay. It should not be in principal or conditional. It should not be in principal or conditional and should be fully sanctioned. Okay, collateral, security, immovable properties, valuation report of the property, collateral security should belong to immediate family members. So, if you are applying for study loans and maybe you need to provide some kind of collaterals and the rest of them, these are the four kinds of collateral that are accepted. Okay. So on the other hand, as well, savings account, account statement covering transactions for the last 6 months should be submitted. So please, 6-month bank statement is required for the visa. Okay. Then you talk about balance certificate from the bank with recent balance amount should be submitted. So this is what you do. The student goes to the bank, meets the account officer and tells the account officer, I'm applying for a study permit to allow me to study in Malta. And as one of the requirements, I need to provide a bank balance certificate. So it's more or less like a reference letter, okay? So they are going to write it on behalf of the student, stating the amount of money that is currently sitting in the account. Okay, so fixed deposits, for fixed deposit, the amount can be withdrawn at any time as per the applicant's request. So you cannot bring a fixed deposit certificate or letter stating that you cannot have access to that money. No, it should be such that you are able to liquidate that funds, maybe even if not 100%, maybe a certain percentage of that fund you should be able to liquidate and have access to at every given time. I know that for most of the banks or financial institutions who permit or who issue fixed deposit certificates and all, yes, that is actually possible. It's just that maybe the student or the account holder may lose some money. Okay, so if the FD is also renewed, then please send across scanned copies of both sides of the fixed deposit. Please, FD here means fixed deposit, okay? Okay, so recent fixed deposit shall not be accepted. At least 3 months old is what we need, minimum. Anything less than 3 months old will not be accepted. Okay. So what kind of funds are not acceptable? Okay, we're talking about funds in mobile money, funds in cooperative banks and regional rural banks, investment in shares and mutual funds. So if you have any of these forms of accounts, okay, you cannot use them for the visa application. So if you are applying, please, you have to use a well-recognized bank. Don't go and use all these cooperative bank or microfinance banks that don't have a very good reputation or not having a very good name, or maybe not even well registered or licensed. It will not be affected as it may affect the outcome of the visa application. Okay, so these are the processes again for the student visa. So send their educational certificates, like I said. All certificates used during the application process, the student needs to provide them once again. Then once the visa is approved, the university will provide a proper approval letter to the students. Okay? Then you have to maintain 13,000 euros in the account for living expense, like I said. Tuition fees, first installment needs to be paid to the university. Please, this should not confuse you to feel like there's a second installment for the tuition fee. This first installment we're talking about is 100% of your first year fee. If it's a 2-year program, then when you are in school, after that, you pay your second year program 100% as well. Okay? So book an appointment at the nearest VFS center to submit the necessary visa document. Take the appointment for the visa stamping. Okay? So that is process for the visa. So before we talk about the opportunities after studying in Malta, let us also talk about something else, okay? So that we don't miss the entire point, we don't miss the point for this training, okay? So the essence of this training, once again, is to inform you of the opportunities that are available in Malta for international students. And in informing you about those opportunities, we are trying to also let you know what the processes are to harness these opportunities, especially from making the application, going as a student, and all of that. Okay, some of the opportunities we mentioned, we talked about being able to have post-study work opportunities, ranging from 9 months to as much as 1 year. Okay, student being able to move around within Europe easily. Okay, low cost of tuition, very friendly and serene environment, highly welcoming people, and all of that. Okay, so these are some opportunities. Then nurses can apply for UK nursing registration without IELTS after 1 year experience in Malta as a registered nurse. assuming they are applying for such a program. Okay, then it's an opportunity for students to also invest in one of the